Thanks for joining me. Yesterday we spent some time, we started with shading and we shaded a sphere. And today we're going to shade a cube. Very basic, but very important. And if you get far in your drawing and you realize things just don't look right, chances are your shading's off. And so that's why it's helpful to go back over the basics and learn how to really treat each object of your drawing carefully with the shading. So let's look at how to shade a cube. Here we go. Okay, let's draw a cube, and let me show you this little trick right there. Here we go. So I could draw a square on top of a square and then connect the corners, and I've got a cube. Just helpful. We are drawing more of an isometric cube today, which means that everything is totally parallel. This is parallel. All these lines are parallel. These are parallel here. And this is fine for today's exercise. This is parallel to that. That's fine for today's exercise. Reality would be if I had a real box sitting in front of me, the perspective would be a little more distorted. And there's a more of an accurate way to draw that using perspective lines, which is not a part of what we're doing right now. So we're going to keep it simple, and we're just going to draw a cube like this. Oops, I need to come a little closer to the center. All right, there we go. So yeah, we're going to draw a cube this way. Not entirely worried about the perspective right now. Let me just clean that up a little. That should be good. All right, so we've got our cube. This needs to come up a little more. Now we're getting somewhere. Okay, so we've got our cube. It doesn't matter. We're going to draw over that anyway. So I'm going to imagine the plane on the bottom here. All right, let me erase that just so it makes sense. Okay, I'm going to draw the bottom. I'm going to find the center of this bottom plane, and I can do that crisscrossing it. That's the center. I'm going to move out this way, up, and then coming down in this angle is going to be the light source. And that's the most important part about shading, is having an accurate light source. In knowing where that light source is, knowing how that affects whatever it is you're drawing. Because a light source up here, oh, did I draw on top of that? Oh, silly me. Okay. That's going to affect the other parts of your drawing. So let me just continue with that idea. If I have the light source here and I draw an object here, then that is going to cast a shadow this direction. This cube is going to have a shadow going this direction. an object over here is going to have a shadow going this direction. And you just have to think about that. This would be shaded over here. This would be shaded here. So it's so important that you think about where your light source is, because that affects the rest of the drawing. What you don't want is to say, oh, I'm going to add another cylinder over here. And because I always shade cylinders the same way, I'm going to shade it so it's dark over here. That doesn't make any sense, and that will break apart the drawing very quickly. So I'm going to redraw that cube since I did do it on the wrong layer. I'm going to draw here like this. Okay, and so the light source is here, and I'm going to turn that off. And there. All right, so now we've got our light source on top. It's coming this direction. It will cast a shadow this way. We can imagine that the corner is here, and it's going to come out this way, and this way. Again, I want to tighten this up a little bit. There is a more precise way to draw the cast shadow so that it is in perspective. But again, we're not going to concern ourselves with that at this moment. So if we're just looking to go real simple, we could just say that this top plane is going to be in the brightest because the light is hitting that the most solidly. This would be like totally white if the light source was here coming straight down. So there will be some gradation, but for now, let's just say that's going to be white. The side plane is going to be a little more gray, a little more shading. The back plane is going to be darker. And for a little more contrast, we'll go, don't do that. A little more contrast, we'll go even darker. Okay. The shadow will also be, maybe I'll lighten that up just a little bit. So the shadow would be like that. Now the reality is that there is going to be a little more of a gradation. And excuse me one moment, let me shut that door. Okay, so now we have some pretty solid areas here, but we want something with a little more gradation. So in reality, I think it's always a good idea to start with some kind of gray, because when it's white, you kind of you run out of options. So I'm going to put a let's see here. I'm going to move a layer down this way, and we're going to put a line straight across. This is going to be represent our tabletop, and we're going to not do that. We're going to close out the line and add like that. Okay, what's going on here? Got it. All right, so I'm going to shade that in. We're going to come back to the cube, and that needs to be, instead of white, just a little bit gray. So I'm going to go back over that. And so that's going to be gray. Now, the reality is it will be lighter. I've got my light source here coming down this way. So it is going to be a little bit lighter on this plane. So I'm going to go to white. And there's just going to be a little more of a gradation. So we'll do that this way. I'm going to have a highlight here. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit brighter here. It's going to get a little bit darker as it goes. And it just keeps getting darker as it gets further from the light source. And again, if the light was directly above, then yes, it'd be just a flat white, but it is off to the side. So we're going to do it that way, and I'm going to just clean this up ever so slightly. Okay, there we go. So we've got that. All right, now we're going to draw, we're going to go to this side plane, and the same thing. This is in shade, and this is the plane that's closest to us, but it needs to be a little more, there needs to be a gradation. So I'm going to lighten it up. And it'll be like this. And we can shade that in. Sorry, we're going to add that highlight there. And then it's just continually get a little bit darker as it works its way down. We could blend this in even more, but um, we're just trying to get the basic idea. It's going to be darkest towards the bottom. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing on the back side. Now this time we actually will have, this is going to be the darkest plane because it's away from the light. However, there is some light that's going to be bouncing off from the tabletop onto this back side. So the way that I want to show that is we're going to find that shade and we're going to lighten it up a little bit. And it sort of fans out across that way. And we're just going to keep working, getting a little bit darker as we go. And it'll get darkest towards the top. Okay, so now let's take a look at the shadow. The shadow is going to have a gradation as well. And when we drew the sphere yesterday, we made it a point. Let me clean up this angle side a little bit. Okay, so when we drew the sphere, we had the sphere and then we had the cast shadow and we had gradations. It was darkest closest to the sphere. That's the ambient inclusion. There's no light getting there. A little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, and then it just fades and gets lightest there. So we're going to think about the same thing for this cube, or the shadow, I should say. It's going to be lighter, so I'm just going to draw some guidelines here. It's going to be lighter as it comes away from the cube. And we're just going to do a series of layers. Okay, so it's going to be lighter away, and then so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One's going to be the lightest, 2 will be a little bit darker. So we'll just go a little bit darker, and we'll fill in 2. Is that darker? I think so. Yeah, that's darker. Three is going to be a little bit darker. Four even darker. Five will be the darkest. And then when we get right up to that cube, we'll just go even darker. Because I snuck in another layer there. And just even darker still. And we'll make a line there, a little bit right there. And let's get rid of this one. Actually, you might have a nice crisp shadow, but we're going to go even lighter and just sort of blend that even more to the table. And I know that Photoshop has a smudge tool. We could certainly play with that, but I'm just trying to get the basic idea here. All right, so I said that I don't like to go straight white for the top because I like to have some options. Now I'm going straight white, and I can make it even lighter right at the tip of this cube, closest to the light, and then give that even just a little more contrast. So there is how we shaded a cube. And we're going to do one more thing before we go. Let's see, I'm going to, what am I doing here? I'm going to turn that off. And we're going to draw another cube. I'll turn this off for a moment. Okay, I'm going to draw another cube. And we're going to make a face with the same idea. And we'll do this very quickly. But I'm going to use a rectangle. Okay. So we're using the rectangle as the base of our face. I'm going to make it a little more wide as it goes to the bottom. I'm using the exact same principles with drawing shapes. I'm going to draw another rectangle here for the nose. We'll have a cylinder for the ear. And another rectangle for the mouth, or an upper lip, lower lip. I'm not sure what I got. I'm going to make that a little bit shorter. And I'm going to draw a sphere under the eyes, under that brow. I'm going to make that thicker area here. Okay, so all I did was draw a series of rectangular solids. And to shade this in, I'm going to start with, make this a little bit darker here, thicker I should say, for the eye. Okay, and actually I want to make this head a little bit wider at the base. So now what we have is we have a head shape, very crude, but that's the way we can get started with this. So now I'm going to treat. I'm going to make this nice and light for the front. I'm going to make the light source here. Try that again. Light source is here, going that way. So just in the interest of time, I'm going to drop some color in that way. And I'm treating each of these planes. The one closest to is going to be brighter. Okay, the one on top we'll make just a little bit darker. That seems about right. Okay, we got all the ones on top. And then the one on the side, the planes on the side are going to be even darker and more gray. So these are all the side planes. And this is a cylinder, so in theory it would have the color of the face. However, it is in shadow, so I am going to darken that a little bit. That'll be fine for now. Okay, for the eyes, again, I don't go straight white. We're going to go gray, and I want to think about using the same technique that we did yesterday for the sphere. If you start with white, you're limited. So now I have options. I can lighten it up. And keep working our way closer to straight white. And that's totally white. And now those eyes look like spheres with a little more dimension. I'm going to use the same dark on the side just to kind of highlight the have the eyes. Okay, so I'm going to use that same shade to kind of outline the face a little bit so we know what we're looking at. And I'm not afraid to round it out, it's fine. I'm going to connect these planes. And I'm just going to get rid of some of these lines here. This a little neater. But the bottom line is I hope that you see that this is the same thing we did earlier. We're just shading, and this would be no different than if we were to draw a realistic face. We would be looking for planes. So just to demonstrate that briefly, if I were to draw a nose, I'm going to be looking for planes. Everywhere I go, I'm looking for planes. And that's going to affect the way that I do the shading. It's going to be darker on this side if that's where the light source is coming from. And we're just always thinking about what direction is the light hitting it. And so that helps us out. All right. But we're keeping it simple today with some very basic shapes. I'm going to go a little bit darker and add some definition to the ear. Let's see. Give us some eyes. And I think that's a fine first step. If I wanted to, we could add some gradation to the back of the head as it will get darker further away from the light source. And we could also add in a little bit of coloring throughout just to break it up even more. And at any point we wanted to, we could start rounding it out and having it look less blocky and get away from this brick-like look. I'm calling him Mr. Brickhead right now, but we could round it out, and maybe we will at another time. But I think you get the main idea. That's what I was hoping to accomplish, was to show you that we can go from this to that. And it's the same thing. We just want to think about those planes, think about how the light is hitting it, and make those necessary adjustments. Okay, I need to update my title. But anyway, I want to thank you for joining me again. I hope this was helpful. I hope that this is going to help you take your drawings to the next level. And again, if your drawings aren't working out the way you would like, chances are that we need to back up and hit those basics one more time. A quick review, and I think we're always having to do that as artists, is back up and go back to the basics. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. I hope to be back next week, and I hope you'll join me. If you'd like to check out some of my artwork, go to dango.art, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.